What's up guys, Mr. Lusted here once again with another revision video for you. Today we're going to be looking a bit about analysing melody, making sure we can get the maximum marks possible. So the first thing, as ever, where all of our lovely revision stuff is stored is in here, in this music SharePoint. Here there's a thing called key terms, and it should have all of the different sections on. For example, all of the key terms you need to know about melody. It might take a while, but we'll click and load this up. And then here we have all these different phrases, most of which I'm going to cover in this video today. Remember, as always, comment, like, subscribe. Before we get going on analysing melody, let's talk about what a melody is. A melody is a single note combination of rhythm and pitch. This can be sung or played. This is not meaning that multiple notes are playing at the same time, although you could have multiple melodies playing at the same time, combining to create a harmony. One way which we can get marks is recognizing the way that the melody moves. This involves changes in pitch and can be two main categories. That is conjunct, meaning notes that are moving in small steps being categorized as anything less than 3 notes apart. So major third is probably the point where we're starting to get into disjunct movement. And the second one is disjunct movement. Anything moving up or down in pitch by more than 3 notes, which is again our third. Looking at this melody here, we can see this is a brilliant example. This is the Star Wars theme. I'm not going to sing it to you, but however, you'll have to believe me. This is where we have these low notes here, jumping up a fifth, up to this G, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, up a fourth, all the way up to that top note there of D. A brilliant example of a disjunct movement melody. Here we've got a conjunct movement melody. It says conjunct or disjunct because it's a good point to stop and ask yourself. Here we see it moving, sitting on that F sharp for a while before moving up in small steps. Now ask yourself, what is this? Is this conjunct or disjunct? Pause it if you need a second. Looking at this, we have a huge jump of an octave, so that is going to be a disjunct melody once again. We have a lot of disjunct movement, big leap here from a D down to a D. Another idea that we have when we can analyze music is by talking about the amount of repetition that is used. Repetition is a direct repetition of a musical idea with no changing. For example, here this is a piece from a Mozart symphony. It's then written, so we have this phrase, and then down here we have the second phrase. You can see it's a direct copy of the first phrase. Imitation is where this is done with little variation but is passed around different instruments. There's a really good example here, which is Beethoven's Fifth. I'll just quickly play it. Where you can hear that main thematic motif being passed around the whole orchestra. That idea of something imitating another instrument, trying to sound as close to, but it being on different instruments. Anacrusis is a really key point. Here's our anacrusis. It's where you have, before the starts, the main bars of music, you have a small, what is often called an upbeat, before the piece starts playing. For example, here we got one beat, one crotchet quarter note beat before the actual start of, in this case, Pirates of the Caribbean. You can see the piece is in 3/4, but however there's only one beat worth of stuff here, and our normal bar is resumed afterwards. Sequence is repeating a musical idea either at a higher or lower pitch. For example, this is the start of Bad Neri. Da 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 da. We have that exact sort of little motif built out of arpeggios. We have it one note here, a minor third, back to the original note, one note here, a minor third, back to the original note, one note here, a minor third, back to the original note, but just repeated in descending, getting lower in pitch intervals. Range is how high Range is the distance between the lowest and the highest pitch played in a melody. You could say that a melody has a short range of notes, like it's played within a very confined set of pitches, or again, like this Styles piece, quite a high range. We go all the way down from D down here, up an octave, and then E, F, G. So over an octave in range for this melody. That's a really good important point to be talking about when you're answering questions and you have to analyze the melody. Fanfare is a musical flourish usually played by a brass instrument. This is really key because you might get this on some film music. Again, for some reason I've got obsessed with Star Wars, so here is that intro of Star Wars with that fanfare playing. Arpeggio means we're taking notes from a chord and we are using that to structure the melody. This little intro from Mozart's piano sonata in C shows the melody being played here, and then we've got the third and we've got the fifth of that chord, so we can see that they're using that. Melodies that are created this way are often called triadic, meaning they are made from the chords that are underpinning the piece. Rhythm is a brilliant way to get marks for analysing melody. You could describe the notes as being made of long and short notes. I've seen marks given for that. You could say that there are lots of short notes used and then give an example why, or you could just use the correct notation terms. I would say sometimes it's better to edge your bets and go for the long and short notes, just in case you get the notes wrong. For example, looking at this one here, Swan Lake, you could say, oh, it's a melody made up of a combination of minims, quavers, and dotted crotchets. You can hear there's a little bit of repetition. I've even put look, repetition, and you can see this key kind of phrase. So if you think you know everything about melody now, you can have a look for this booklet, have a go, see what areas you are doing really well on, see which areas you might need to focus on a bit better. So those are the kind of aspects you're being asked to look at when you're talking about melody and all those different elements. A brilliant way of looking at things is using the who, what, why method that I know we've done, which is who being what instruments are being used, what they are doing, describing it. For example, I could describe this melody talking about the different rhythms that are being used, talking about the fact that it has a high pitched note here that then moves disjunctly down from the F down to that B before moving back up, being involved in some dotted rhythms, and then ending with a descending kind of scale fragment at the end here. You could also look, and then if it's linked to another question, when it's talking about, for example, the 10-mark question, when it's saying what effect does this have, you then talk about why and link that back to the question the composer has done this. For example, there might be a question saying, in Swan Lake, how has this melody create a sense of longing or sadness? So you'd be like, brilliant. Well, it's got a descending melody at the start. We've got interrupted kind of dotted rhythms giving us an uncertain feeling. All of these points add up to give us and whatever I just said the question answer was. So we're looking at who, what they're doing, and if you're linking it to other things, why that is having an impact on the listener.